Hey, what's up, guys? This is Brian from Whisper Status 74. I've been having a lot of requests for settings video for the Sony 900E. This can be used for the 930E, 940E, and the 900F. If you like, as the color settings are all pretty, or the picture settings are all pretty similar between those variants of displays. Um, I don't love doing settings videos simply because they're very subjective. What is pleasing to my eye is not pleasing to your eye. So what I'd like to do in these videos is actually have you guys in the comments share what your settings are and what you're using. So when I do these videos, guys, I'm simply giving you my opinion and what I'm using, and I'm not telling you anything, meaning I'm not telling you something is right and something is wrong. So please keep that in mind when viewing the video. If you don't have a 900E or any of the other listed displays, this video is not going to do much for you. But subs to the channel have been asking me for, and that's who I'm looking to make the video for. We'll go through the settings together. What I found in this game is that, for me, game mode is looking best. Sometimes in single player campaigns, I will venture out of game mode and go into Cine Pro and some other settings to use motion interpolation to try and make the motion feel like a high fresh rate monitor. And sometimes that works in games like Far Cry. I liked it. God of War, I liked it. I don't really like it for this game, as it seems to be faded more in other presets. Even Vivid, things of that nature, tend to be pretty faded. The game is in HDR. So quickly we'll go through the settings and my thoughts on and why I chose. They're pretty bare bones, but we'll turn some of them on, turn some of them off. So we're going to our picture settings. This is for the Sony 900E and the other displays that I had mentioned. We are in game mode. Now, a lot of you guys have been talking about game mode enhancing HDR. It doesn't need to be in game mode for HDR. If anything, game mode is usually the weakest looking preset of them all, simply because all software is turned off to allow for lag, things of that nature. But in this particular area, I do like game mode on. Some of you are also curious to graphics mode. Graphics mode is typically sharper than game mode. However, it does something with the local dimming. So if you think that you see some brighter corners, I tend to stay away from graphics mode. It is sharper and it is slightly brighter in my experience than game mode, but you might see some brighter corners and some clouding, because I think it does change the local dimming a little bit. So back to game mode. Auto picture is off. Now here's the thing quickly about HDR, guys. These are the things that are on max by default. Brightness, gamma, extended dynamic range. I wouldn't change these settings simply because you won't really be in HDR. There's a reason why every display from LG to Samsung takes those settings for whatever manufacturer it is and they pump them up. I don't recommend changing these when you're in HDR. When you're in SDR, I mean, when I'm in SDR, my game settings, my backlight is down to like 10. So change them if you like, but if you're looking for HDR to be HDR, you need to be, those presets need to be managed correctly, and they need to be as the TV or the manufacturer recommends and automatically puts up. Why the game needs a slider, in my opinion, is going into gamma and lowering it 1 or lowering it 2 doesn't do anything but darken the entire image. So we need to keep that there. And some of you guys have mentioned black level, which in Sony's is brightness. This doesn't do anything either but darken the entire image. So what we're looking for is more depth from an HDR white point slider, not just to darken the image. So doing all these things, and I wouldn't really do the brightness when the rest of it is pumped up, but you're free to do the brightness if you want, which is black level. So quickly going through them, what am I using right now? My color is at 60. I do have the saturation a little higher than I normally do. Some of you guys have this up very high. In this game, I don't mind putting it up high, as it does put some of the color back into the image, but I tend to keep mine a little bit lower. So I have mine at 60. You can go between, for me, it'd be between 60 and probably mid-70s if you're going to go crazy with the color. And then I do have live color enabled. Live color and HDR content, for me, I do like the effect it has. I don't love it outside of HDR content. So color at 60, these things are automatically where they are. advanced settings, brightness at max. Contrast I have at 90. Contrast to me doesn't have to be max for HDR. When it goes up a little too high, there is some clipping. And to me, it washes out the image even further. So I'm at either 95 or at 90 typically. Gamma is at its standard mode. Black level at its standard. Black adjust I do like. I do like black adjust on most of the time. It's not a huge difference as far as what it does. It does tend to deepen the image slightly and outlines it a little bit. So I tend to typically have black adjust on high. Advanced Contrast Enhancer. This is a hot one that a lot of people love and a lot of people hate. I have played with this one, but I would have it either as off or on low to brighten the picture slightly. A little too much, and it does get artifacty, and it does get a little bit crushed in the blacks. So if you're going to go Advanced Contrast Enhancer, for my recommendation, it's either low or off. And again, guys, remember, there is no right, there is no wrong. This is just what I'm doing. Autolocal dimming is always on high. Extended dynamic range, always on high. Color, I have it 60 like we mentioned before. The color temperature I'm using is Expert 2. Expert 1, Expert 2 are very similar, but I found that my typical warm or even neutral are just too washed out for this image because it's already washed out in HDR. And cool is just too white for me. So for me, take your choice between Expert 1, Expert 2. Advanced color temperature I leave alone. Live color I do like it on medium. It doesn't change it too much. If you do put your color saturation way up and then change this, you will get a pretty crazy combination. Live color I've noticed is, let's go back to off. Low doesn't seem to do much. Medium is brighter and high dims it. So I stay at medium. I do like it. It hasn't changed the picture too much or made anything too oversaturated or not realistic. Now this is the one that I don't mess around with. It's actually not even enabled in here, but for those of you that love reality creation, maybe if you have a PS4 Pro and if you're in here, you can probably go, for me, to auto. If you have a PS4 Pro and you feel like your resolution is not there, you can put it on manual. I wouldn't go very high with it because what it does, if you look even into the grass, what it will do is it will give you aliasing around objects. So if you like that effect and this works for you, I've never really liked the way it looks. To me, it tends to, like I said, create artifacts and fine detail. So for me, it's either having this off. I keep it off always. If you do feel, again, on a PS4 Pro, if it's something that you want to mess around with, then go into it, and I would just use auto. Let's go back to... So for me, that'll be off. For you guys, it might be auto. Smooth gradation. I had a video before that had some artifacting in the clouds. Smooth gradation is supposed to change that. For me, it actually creates artifacting. So if you look into the clouds, if I put it on high, you will see horizontally it gives you a dirty screen effect. I don't know if you guys can see that. Side to side it seems fine, but for me it's always created artifacting in the clouds. If you see the lines going through the clouds. So I tend not to use smooth gradation for gaming. I use it for movies here and there. I keep backing all the way out. I'm sorry for that. So smooth gradation is not something that I like. It gives, in my opinion, a dirty screen effect. Either have it on low or have it all the way off. That's just my opinion. As far as video options, motion is off. Video options, everything is to auto. You can do, people are going into full. It just doesn't, to me, doesn't do anything because the color space is automatic for HDR. So changing that's not going to do anything. Changing it in the Xbox isn't going to do anything. Keep that at auto. Those are the basic settings, guys. It's nothing crazy. Color at 60. I like black adjust on high. I wouldn't change any of those other settings because you want to stay in HDR. And I know it's not anything crazy. Please be kind to each other and to myself in the comments. And that's just my picture settings for what I'm using for Red Dead Redemption 2 right now until they patch it. I believe they will patch it as this is just a little too washed out for my taste. Alright guys, this will be my last Red Dead video for a while. Hope everyone is well, and thank you as always.